So in 2003, I was appointed dean, and I really began to use my position to increase the opportunities for contemplative mindfulness practice to be gently and gradually made available in our summer session in our community. In Algonquin in 2003, the journal entry, "If I am to bring the school to a deeper calm from which intellectual and interpersonal struggles can be experienced in healthy and productive ways, where all will be heard and find new resolution, new paths of meanings, I must find, own, listen to that desire deep within myself, for myself. The dreams to call forth a school that is responsive to the psychological brokenness in this world, to give space for wounded healers to be healed, to reflect on their woundedness, and to begin the process of transforming into the art and practice of clinical social work is the underlying dream as I see the school." Why Smith? Because the work of clinical social workers is to pay attention to the spoken and unspoken narrative of others' lives. It is my belief that in order to do this work, one must pay attention to the spoken and unspoken narratives of one's own life. From Yeats, "We can make our minds so like still water that beings gather about us that they may see, it may be, their own images, and so live for a moment with a clearer, perhaps even with a fiercer life because of our quiet." And so I set about creating spaces quietly, because once you've gotten a place into stability, the sense is then to move toward transformation. And the stability means a valuing of the roots, the history, the tradition in a very powerful way of honoring that, but looking at what will be the needs that the organization has to respond to for the future. And for us, the issue of dialogue and engagement with students around difficult and conflictual issues is very important. Our summer sessions, those of you who know Pioneer Valley during the summer, when it gets to be 90 degrees and it's 100% humidity, our students are living in unair-conditioned dorms, and you think temperatures don't fly in more ways than one. So the issue of how do you keep the conversation going when the weather is hot and temperatures are hot and people are tired. I have a basic premise that with a 10-week program, it's the third week and the seventh week you got to be most concerned about. The third week, people just get into being agitated about how long they have yet to go. The seventh week, they're tired and they still have another 3 weeks to go. So you can find very short temperatures, temperament at that time. I wanted to honor the contemplative practices, mindfulness practices of students and faculty as integral to the relationships-based therapies. And I wanted to attend to breath, joy, humor, music in the process of finding creative solutions, alternatives, and ways of being, knowing that the hard, complex questions and issues were always going to be there with us. And so from my journal in August 2005, "When my vision is clear, passion and creativity are there." And so I did in September and worked on a vision of stability and transformation for the school that really looked at our ongoing respect and integration of theory and practice, wisdom and knowledge, the continued emphasis on how do we become much more competent around multicultural practice issues, the paying attention, the quality of attention being very important as we provided opportunities for personal and professional growth for students to become colleagues and practitioners in a world filled with uncertainty. I was concerned about ensuring that content on race and the various forms of oppression and diversity were well infused into the program, and to strengthen our connection with the historical roots of the school in working with military veterans and their families was also very important to me. increasing access for a diverse, economically diverse student body, opportunities for creativity in teaching, and ongoing research and scholarship were also important. And so if I shift to looking at opportunities for mindfulness meditation and other contemplative practices, early in my tenure as dean, I sponsored a mindfulness-based stress reduction program for 2 summers for students, and at no cost to the students. It was a voluntary program that was very well received with our students. For 3 summers, I've sponsored retreats on Buddhist contemplative practices, meditation, and many of our faculty use some form of silent meditation, mindfulness exercises in the work that they do with students during the summer, particularly when students hit those difficult moments in classroom discussions and in the work that they're doing. The joy of having Saki there during the summer of 2006, it was one of those times, and I absolutely love it, because there's some things that people used to say to me before I became dean about, you really can't do that. And now there are things that they just don't bother saying what I can or can't do any longer. But they really get excited about some things, and they were really, faculty was very excited about having Saki come. When I said, though, that I wanted him to do a retreat on a Sunday afternoon and evening, people just sort of went, Carolyn, you sure? Will people come? Now it's a Sunday afternoon or whatever. We had over 80 people. Students, faculty, staff show up for that Sunday afternoon, and then a full house for his lecture on that Monday, and then the class response and the faculty response was just extraordinary. So I know that when you put the right persons together in the environment at the right time, you can have those transformative moments at work. But you've got to scan and you've got to know who and what is happening in the environment in terms of being able to pull some things off. In November of 2005, I brought Robert Keegan to campus to do a workshop with all of our faculty, both adjunct and resident faculty. So there were over 100 people that came together for that workshop. Now, for some of the faculty, it was interesting because Robert Keegan was into having people look at their own lives and what was keeping them from moving and becoming the next step, the next person in terms of their own development, their own consciousness with it, which threw some of our clinical faculty back a bit, because they just sort of went, well, we should have had content more specifically about gender or race or da-da-da-da-da. I said, well, this is about getting in touch with who you are as you teach. And they just sort of looked at me and went on their merry way. The vast majority of the faculty found it an extraordinary helpful process because we as an institution had not invested in their personal development. And it was an extraordinary experience for all of us who participated.